Hello world, we are so excited that you have tuned in to our Get Motivated experience. Today we are going to be talking about breast cancer awareness. We have some special guests that are right here live at Motivation Station with us, and we're going to be sharing some interesting stories, talking about how we can offer some support even through the faith community for those that are dealing with breast cancer. Today, our conversation is going to be led by one of Boston's very own writers for the Boston Globe, Garry Washburn. He is also a national NBA reporter, and I'm excited about what's getting ready to happen. Get some popcorn, get you something to drink, and tune in today.
Hello folks, how y'all doing this morning?
Hey.
Awesome. It's great to be here. As you guys know, breast cancer is such an important part in a situation that for generations our women and some men too have dealt with, and we need more awareness. I think that's all, we all know that. So this is what this morning and afternoon is for, is to create awareness, get more testing, and take the first step forward. There's no reason why African American women should have a higher mortality rate for breast cancer than white women, but have less diagnosis. I mean, that's sad, and that has to be rectified. So today, our first guest is Annya Haughton. She has an educational background. She has a BS degree from Northeastern University, New York native. She has her MA in Education, Human Development from Columbia University. Wow. A CAGS degree in School Leadership from UMass Boston. A native of the Bronx. She is a breast cancer fighter today. She's an advocate teaching through storytelling experiences. She's a daughter, a sister, a friend, a cousin, a high school assistant principal right here nearby Randolph High School. An immigrant from Jamaica, very proud of that. And she wants to tell her story, so we're going to start. Annya, you were just going on with life and everything was going okay, and then tell us about how this all kind of began for you.
So my story begins with a self-breast exam. When I was younger, I think in my 20s, it's something I started doing because I had a doctor who said my breasts were lumpy. So I would periodically do self-breast exams, usually lying down or in the shower. So in February, I just felt something that I had never felt before. It was about the size of a grape, and it just spoke to me. It was just like, something's wrong. Honestly, it spoke to me so loudly, I literally called my primary care the next day, and I was like, I need to come in. They didn't have an appointment for a little while. So I said, I'll come into urgent care. I just felt like it was a problem. So I went into urgent care, met with not my primary care doctor, but another doctor. And, they did the breast exam and looked at my history, asked me a few questions about my age, background. Breast cancer is not in my family. I don't have a genetic disposition. So they said to me, the doctor said to me, feels like breast tissue to me. You're young, you don't have a history, I think it's fine. And I said, I just don't feel like it's fine, and I'd rather just be cautious. Why not? I was due for a mammogram anyway. After 40, your insurance will cover it once a year, so I hadn't had one, so I said, can we just do an ultrasound mammogram? She was like, well, if you really insist, all right. And that's where the story began. I went in, had the ultrasound, they saw the mass, then I was recommended for a biopsy. The biopsy was done. I got the phone call on April 14th that it came back cancer. And that's like what you don't want to hear, but I wasn't shocked. I felt like something was wrong, Had I listened to my doctor, that doctor, I would have been, because she said what I wanted to hear. She was like, it's fine, I'm sure it's just some breast tissue. she actually even said, you know, as you get older, your breast tissue kind of changes, and you know, these things can happen where a lump comes out of nowhere. And I said, you know, that's probably true. I just didn't feel that it just felt wrong. So the journey began for me at that point on, you know, getting diagnosed. I was diagnosed stage 2, and now I'm on my journey to treatment, through treatment, at like today.
Annya, when did it turn from fear of being tested, that's the thing, getting examined, I don't want to know, I mean, African American folks, so we all, you know, historically, not all of us, but have been hesitant to get checked up, you know, for various reasons, fear of the doctor, fear that we're really sick, we don't want to know. When did that turn from fear to kind of relief that you did get examined, you did go through this? Because as you said, if you had waited 6 months, 8 months, a year, it could have been more severe.
I think I fell into the category of I don't feel sick, I'm healthy, I try to go to the gym, I don't eat badly, I don't have high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, these things that, you know, you talk about or hear about a lot in the Black community. My first mammogram was when I was almost 41. And I went right before I was 41, and it was an awful experience. Like, I felt like this machine hurt. It squished me, and I was just like, so I did not have another mammogram when I turned 42. So I skipped a mammogram, and then I was diagnosed at 43, a couple months before turning 44. For me, you know, I felt guilty, like if I had that mammogram a year before, would I have caught it earlier? So I understand the discomfort of some of the tests we do, and we have some pretty awful tests as women that we don't like, but I can't ignore the fact that my mammogram caught it, you know, when I had it at a year later than I should have, and had I done it earlier, it could have been caught stage 1. Because, you know, you'll learn more about stages as you talk, the medical doctor comes up and talks about it, but stage 1 is better than stage 2. Stage 0 is better than stage 1. So for me, I think I fell into that category. I'm fine, I feel fine, but it's important to have your annual exams, you know, it's just better to know than not know. And I know, busy schedule, I'm an assistant principal, taking time out to go to the doctor. You know, I feel like I meet so many women with children, with busy lives, it's hard to like fit that in. But if you aren't taking care of yourself, it's impossible to take care of others. And then we reach a point where we do find out because now we feel sick, and we're so sick, and it just takes you out of being able to function. I was never fearful of the doctor, I just didn't like it, you know, and I didn't feel like I needed to get a checkup every year. I didn't go for physicals every year. For what? I'm fine. So I now will never miss a mammogram again. I've learned the hard way, you know, and I hope folks can learn through me. I have nothing else wrong with me. Every blood test I do, all my numbers are great. I just think that those preventative exams are put in place because there's just enough data to show that this is common in our country, in our world.
Stereotypically, breast cancer is something that grandma had, your auntie, it's supposed to be a quote-unquote disease for an older woman. Stereotypically, rare cases where women are in their 30s and 40s. How surprising was it, the diagnosis, and two, how much did you learn about how this can afflict women in their 30s and 40s? Because it seems like that's more and more prevalent.
So, as an educator, I'm a natural researcher. So as soon as someone gave me the diagnosis of breast cancer, I went to learning. I read articles. We're in a great state with a lot of options. I am at Dana-Farber, which that's all they do is cancer. I'm at a breast cancer center. Like, I go to a place where everything they do is about breast cancer. which I didn't even know existed until I needed to know. So I've learned so much from the doctors I have, the research they've given me websites, lots of things to go through. It is becoming more common, the environmental cause. Because I did DNA testing, I don't have any gene that would relate back to any cancer. And it was important to me to have those tests because I have 2 sisters, and if I had the gene, they could have the gene. So I spent the money to have those exams done just to get the knowledge. Learning more and more, you know, I've learned like black women, the things about black women. Yes, it's less common for us to be diagnosed with breast cancer, but we are dying at a higher rate. So even though we're getting the cancer less, we're getting diagnosed later, and the mortality rate is much higher. And I said, I'm not the face of breast cancer. When I went to these websites, when I went to look at these different articles and pictures, you don't see black women very often. And I've looked at websites, I've gone to Instagram, there's lots of support groups. There's no all black female support group in the state of Massachusetts that I'm aware of, and I've looked. So I found one in Atlanta. It's called The Breast of Us. They are 2 women who are in their 30s who went to a conference and met and saw the need. Atlanta is a place where you have far more women of color, you know, per capita for the city, so it's understandable. For me, it's like, okay, learning more about it. I'm reading this data, and I said, yeah, that's a problem. If 60%, it read 60% are dying after diagnosis, women of color in our country. Wow. That means we are not, oh, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know. And again, breast cancer is now part of my conversation. It's part of my life. It's something that I'm paying attention to. It's something that I'm interested in because I'm in it. But I want my students, my family, the women I know to, you know, protect themselves because it is on the rise. I got breast cancer through environmental causes. What does that mean? A building I was in, where I lived, could have done this. The school I worked in before, the school, you know what I mean? Who knows what caused it? The food we eat, the processing that we have in our country. There's so many possibilities. There's no way for me to like, okay, this did it. But it is environmental, which means anyone can get, like, be at risk.
How is the psychological part of it when you are at the prime of your life, you're looking great, and everybody's on Instagram and Facebook and at parties, and then suddenly you find out that your body is not perfect?
I don't think I went through my body's not perfect. I've never asked like, why me? Oh my gosh, I didn't do anything to get this. I completely, for me, what was the most difficult thing was I felt fine, I looked fine, I was healthy. Now I'm on a journey that's made me sick. I've had to, you know, to have chemotherapy. I've had to have surgery. I'm continuing chemotherapy starting next week. That's what's been hard. Like, now I feel sick. I feel awful. And I did, like, part of your thinking is I did this because I'm allowing them to give me this drug. I'm allowing them to make me this way. So I struggled with that because I want to work and I want to go to the gym and I want to go out with my friends and I want to have energy. I literally went from being able to open a normal bottle, a jar, and not being able to do that. That's how much my strength went down, and the fatigue and the discomfort in your own body. That's what's been hard and continues to be hard. You know, you're sore, you're aching. It's like there's a lot of things that go with it. So part of my research had to be I talked to 6 survivors. I needed to learn about their formula and if they had chemo in it or not, you know, because there's lots of conversations around chemo and recovery and long-term. I'm hoping to live a long life after this portion of it, and I don't want a heart problem or a liver problem or, you know, something I didn't have to happen. So I had to put all that into perspective, and I think that's what I struggled with a lot. I became super fine to being a sick person, and I had to play a part in that as part of my treatment. But at the end of the day, cancer will kill you. It will grow, it will continue to grow, and it will take over. And learning more about cancer, learning more about treatments, that's what I would advocate for. Have the education so you can make an informed decision. I got a second opinion. I'm fortunate, I have a sister who has a best friend who's an oncologist. So I had 3 people, lots of data that I went through and read. There's so much out there, don't just listen. Had I listened to the first doctor, I don't know where I'd be, honestly. So be an informed decision maker. And that everybody's journey is different. Like, so many people had these conversations with me about chemo. I didn't have necessarily any of what they went through. Everybody's different, so you can't judge it based on someone else's experience. And that would be like my big takeaway. Just learn from anywhere you can and then make your decisions.
Well, I think that's it for our segment here. Annya, thank you for your story, and we appreciate what you told us, and good luck in your journey. We're going to be right back. We're going to have a timeout, pay some bills and some commercials, and we'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. Refill that drink, get some more popcorn.